True leaders rise from challenge, shaping history with vision and resilience. On today's episode, we have one such true leader, a trailblazing journalist at the age of 13, a six-time minister, and an excellent diplomat who has shaped Nepal's history. Please welcome Mr. Ramesh Nath Pandey.
Thank you.
Sir, as someone who has represented Nepal on the international stage, just one example being during Nepal's bid, which was successful for a seat in the UN Security Council in 1970, you have a wealth of knowledge when it comes to international affairs. In a recent article published on 3rd January, I believe, on the Republica, it was reported that you expressed a sort of concern with Nepal's current foreign policies, expressing and warning that the country risks isolation. Could you elaborate on what isolation in foreign affairs actually means for Nepal's future, and what implications this might have on our national progress?
You started from my involvement in the evolution of Nepal's foreign policy.
Yes.
And the way we developed our international relations, we expanded our international contacts, and Nepal became a center of international attention on the global affairs. In that context, you mentioned about my involvement in the first time election of Nepal in the United Nations Security Council. In fact, Nepal was elected twice to the Security Council. One was 1969-70 and another was in 98 and 90. And just to make easy for your audience, let me remind them that when we fought the election first time for the Security Council, we were our other candidates aspiring to be the member of the Security Council were much more powerful, much more influential, and having much more international contacts.
Mm-hmm.
But when we won the election for the Security Council, we won by the record vote of the history of United Nations General Assembly. How we won the confidence of so many members of the United Nations. And now you come back in 2006, when Nepal, again for the third time, we tried to be the member of the United Nations Security Council, and we lost it miserably. Even we didn't got the support from our two neighbors.
Mm.
Why? This is the example of involvement and isolation.
Yes.
Nepal was very much active, and Nepal's voice was carefully. There were a lot of international leaders who were always eager to hear Nepal's voice, and Nepal played a very crucial role in the different global affairs. Okay. Now coming back to the present state, the first thing is that we were very active from the time of 1955, when we joined the membership of the United Nations. And when the process of evolution of Nepal's international contact was there, Nepal was one of the very busy capital where the global leaders were coming and they were inviting Nepal's leaders to their capital. and the exchange of visits was so much that I think all the leaders of important countries of the world, all five PR of the United Nations Security Councils, almost all the important leaders of those days, they all visited Nepal. They discussed, and that influenced the global affairs.
Yes.
And nowadays you see that no one comes to us, no one invites to
But
us.
why is that so? What's the
Because
reason?
the reason is that Nepal lost that confidence, the trust. The foreign policies became lost its stability. And you have to understand that when we talk about foreign policies, when we talk about the international relations, there are two aspects of it. One is that it has to serve the national interest. The national interest means Nepal's immediate and long-term interest.
Yes.
And the trust means that whatever Nepal says must be to serve the interest of Nepal, one, and the two is that it must be in the interest of the global peace and understanding. Now the point is that the foreign policy becomes so much the policy becomes so much unstable in Nepal that we lost the trust of the international community because we are saying something today and completely different thing tomorrow. And the other thing is that we are so much isolated from the rest of the world that we are busy in our own affairs and our self-centered policies, I would say. Self-centered policy means that those leaders who are in charge of the nation, they are more concerned about their own positions, their own personal interest, nothing about the nation. The difference is that not only that the international, you have to remember one basic point in international relations that no world leaders have got free time. They do not visit any country just to see the beauties of the country.
Yes.
They visit the country with certain purpose. They meet the people with certain purpose, and the purpose is that of their national interest, of the international interest. For that, they must be able to understand that they must be clear that yes, that particular country, Nepal, will contribute on it. Nepal can contribute it. Nepal can give me a certain opinion.
Sir, but hasn't Nepal been contributing recently as well? For example, our Gorkha regiment, our army, is serving the UN. It's one of the biggest services that we have given to the UN.
Yes.
And another example is that we're giving hydropower, for example, to Bangladesh. We have signed contracts. Are those not enough?
No, it's not enough. It is number one is that about Nepal's contribution of the UN peacekeeping forces. It's a very long one. Yes. We are continuing it, but that is that it has nothing to do with the government's policies because it has become a permanent feature of Nepal's foreign policy. And as far as the questions comes about the selling power to Bangladesh, yes, that is a business affair. That is a very small amounts of in what you called about the totality of the Nepal's international relations. The basic point is that Nepal must be able to must have a stable foreign policy. Foreign policy must be guided by the national interest. Third is that Nepal must be able to contribute to the peace and stability of the region first. For that, we must have best relation with the two neighbors.
Yes.
The best relation with the two neighbors gives us time and strength, and also necessary, room for our maneuver. Here, in your questions, you asked me about proximity about with the two neighbors. I think the policies of the concept of equidistance, I think that has lost its significance, its role, its influence. In our own, from our own experience and from all the records, we can safely say that it has distanced. Nepal is distanced from the two neighbors. The reason is that we have to change the concept of foreign policy. The concept should be, we should, forgetting about equidistance,
Yes.
we should follow equal closeness with the two nations.
Yes.
When you talk about equal closeness, it must be based on trust. When you base your relations on trust, then automatically the cooperation, automatically the confidence, automatically the understanding will follow. Once there is a confidence, once there is a trust, once there is a understanding, once there is a cooperation, everything will follow. So we lack that. Why I am saying it lacks? Why there is a I'm my emphasis on the weakness of foreign policy is that just go to the record and you'll see that from last 10, 12, 15 years, the two leaders of the two neighbors are visiting us, or our prime ministers are visiting the two neighbors.
Yes.
In outcome is that our friendly neighbors, they promise us this much of amount as a aid or as a grant, as this project or that project, and we give lot of publicity to it as a achievement of the visit. And nowadays you have seen that from last 4 or 5 years, you have seen that every time the leaders, when the leaders of the two neighbors comes to Nepal, or prime ministers of Nepal goes to the two neighboring countries, the outcome is that there was a talk. I'm quoting the statement of the government. There was a talk, and both sides agreed to implement the promises made in the past. If to remind the promises, if to visit the country, to request the concerning country to implement the past promises, it means what? It means lack of trust.
Yes.
Whatever promises are made, that is just for publicity. That means that the relations, there is a distance has been widened between the relationship. So I suggested that the best thing is equal closeness. Equal closeness is based on trust,
Yes.
on confidence, on understanding.
However,
Once there
sir,
is a trust between Nepal and its two neighbors, once there is a understanding, once there is a cooperation starts, then I think everything will follow automatically. The relationship will be very strong. It will be fruitful, and there will be no need for the future prime ministers to visit the countries and to remind the concerning country that you have made me a promise 10 years back and fulfill it. There will be no need for that.
yes. However, sir, there are concerns being raised with this idea of equiproximity. For instance, some people argue that being too close to powerful neighbors could foster dependency or perhaps create perceptions of bias, potentially undermining our autonomy. Wouldn't that mean that a strict policy of neutrality would be a better case for Nepal?
Now, first thing is that about the relation, the concept, the principle of relationship of Nepal with the two neighbors, I have already told you about the equal closeness. Now, this come to the second thing is that in when the principle of neutrality and non-alignment, whatever you call, started. It was started in a different context of the international politics. After this World War II, the world was divided into two camps, and there was a Cold War, and a lot of other countries, including Nepal, we thought that better for us is to be neutral in the between the two camps. Right now, there is no camps, there is no Cold War. The world is not divided into two. So, you are going to be neutral with whom? So, it is just a ritual slogans to call that neutrality. The basic point is that we have to adjust and readjust our relationship with our friendly countries. And we have to understand, and we have to work accordingly to the need of the time. Need of the time is the old order, which was the outcome of the end of the Second Great War. Now that has collapsed.
Yes.
But unfortunately, new world order has not been finalized. So we are, the whole world is in a transitional period. One world order in which we were functioning has lost its significance, but the new world order has not come into existence yet. So this is a transitional period. In the transitional period, you have to, Nepal must function in a, must look, must decide, must think in a different angle, not in the past habit. How we should look out, and is that we have to realize one basic point. So that is, in principle, all the countries are equal, whether it is United States, China, India, Nepal, or any other countries. All are equal. They all get one vote in the United Nations General Assembly. But in practice, is completely different. There are P5 which have got the veto powers.
Yes.
Whatever the General Assembly passed, the veto power is there. So the practice is different from what principle is. The second thing we have to realize is that a country like Nepal do not have that strength, do not have that role, do not have that voice, that strong voice, to decide or to influence the principle of New World Order. We cannot dictate it, we cannot form it, we cannot play the role or formulation of the New World Order. But we have to accept it, we have to follow it, we have to follow accordingly to the New World Order, because that is the compulsion, being a small country, being a weak country. Yes. We have to understand that. For that is the reason that brings a role to the country like Nepal. The role is that a country like Nepal, there are many countries like Nepal. So Nepal should try to have a similar opinion.
So just
a minute. One voice,
yes,
which will take care of the interest of the smaller countries, and unitedly they should raise their voice in the process of formulation of the New World Order. We can do that, and that is the way we can activize our foreign policy. That we can give a role to ourselves in the global affairs. We can do that, and that will safeguard to the nation. And finally, you have to realize that the present world is not kind to the smaller countries, particularly country with strategically sensitive location is vulnerable.
yes,
And that is the reason we have to be very careful on formulation, execution, and uh, uh, making the international relations.
Yes.
In that context, I have to remind one basic point, that is, the geography is very, very important for a country. Geography
Sir, you had
decides.
said
Now, wait a minute. Let me complete it.
you had said that there are many countries like Nepal, and you explained that our situation, being stuck geographically, geopolitically between two giants, means that we have a major role to play. That being said, there aren't any other countries than Nepal that are right between India and China. Our status as being neutral in that sense would mean to prevent wars, to prevent conflicts. For instance, in the same article in the Republica, you had stated that there is a likeliness of war to break out at any point in time. You took the example of the Ukraine-Russia war and the Israel-Hamas conflict. That being said, wouldn't it be essential now more than ever before for Nepal to maintain truly neutral policy in its foreign affairs?
No, about the neutrality, I have already explained.
Yes.
The neutrality as such do not exist in the today's world, because there is no division of camps. Now, coming back to your original question, we shouldn't confine ourselves on the two neighbors, but we should give top priority to our relations with the two nations,
Yes.
two neighbors. With the two neighbors, we have to realize that our job is, the job of the leaders of the country, government, is that to the two neighbors, they are important for us because of so many reasons. But we have to convince them that Nepal is important for them too. Nepal is important to them for their stability, for their peace, and also we have to convince them that their wish to be their goal to be to have a very important position in the new world order. They must have peace. They must have stability with their own neighbors. Nepal has already in the past. Nepal has done a lot of good things to the two neighbors. But the important thing for the two neighbors is that they have to realize that for their stability, for their peace, their best relation with Nepal, their cooperation with Nepal, their trust with Nepal, and Nepal's goodwill is very important for them. Because in the present day world, Nepal is already in the strategic radar of not only of two neighbors, but the third power also the United States, and they have natural concern on it. So we have to convince them that it is mutually benefited to have best relations, to have best cooperation, best relations based on trust.
Speaking of being on the United States radar, recently KPOLI had a meeting with Elon Musk. I want to ask you what your opinions are with regards to Elon Musk bringing Starlink to Nepal. Do you think this is a good strategic move for our country?
No, about the Musk is going to be a very influential man in the Trump administration. That is clear.
Yes.
But it is not clear what role Musk will have on the international relations. That is not clear. Second thing is that we must have a very practical views on our relations with the America. The practical view is that United States policies on Nepal will very much depend, will very much influenced by its relations with the two neighbors, to our neighbors, India and China.
Yes.
If the Americans have best relations with India, America's attitude towards Nepal will be, what different. If they have got best relations with China, America's attitude towards us will be different. If they have got conflict with the two, India and China, their attitude with Nepal will be different. So it is very much influenced by America's relations with India and China. We shouldn't think that America will have an independent policies in Nepal, because Nepal do not have that role, that position. And the third thing is that Musk is a very successful businessman,
Yes.
as President Trump is. Both of them have got a completely, they are not political people, they are not experienced diplomat. They are businessmen. The businessman's attitude.
Sure, it's a bit bold of a statement to say that the President of the United States is not an experienced diplomat.
No, he was never involved in diplomacy. He was never involved in politics. In his before he became the president first time, he was a simply a businessman.
Yes.
And when he came to the White House, then he was involved in the state affairs. So the other leaders, they were you should compare. The position is completely different. The basic point is that President Trump's his guiding principle is America's economic strength, America's economic well-being,
Yes.
American people's economic well-being, economy. That is the reason, that whether America is going to be in isolation, whether America will continue to be the policeman of the world, whether America will continue to be involved militarily in the global affairs, or America will completely go back to its own well-being. I think it is absolutely clear that the priority of President Trump will be America's well-being, not well-being of Nepal,
Yes.
not of India, not of the global affairs. So that is a completely different way of thinking in the international relations. That is going to pose a completely different situation in the global scenario. How we are going to cope, I think that has got not meaning, because the meaningful things will be that how the international community, the powerful countries, those countries who are whose aspiration is to play globally, will look after, will decide. And that will have implications to Nepal. So for Nepal, the best way is we have to understand this global situation, and we have to understand the global situation, and also we have to adjust and readjust our relationship according to the time, according to the need, and according to our aspiration for the future.
Yes.
But in that context, I would like to remind that a completely new generation is coming in Nepal. We call it Generation Z. This Gen Z generation, that is very important, very crucial for Nepal, because they have got the future. They are not in charge of the present, but they are in charge. They are going to be in charge of the future.
Yes.
They are the future. They decide the future, and they are much more educated. They have got much more commitment. They have got more completely different aspiration.
And they also have access to recent technological developments
Exactly.
like artificial intelligence.
Exactly. So and the most important thing is that they look after. They don't have patience now. They want to take over the leadership of the country now, if they can. So this is another transitional period for Nepal. The best thing for Nepal is that we have to give We have to give opportunity to the younger generation to come up. Let the generation change be evolutionary process. It should be natural way. We have seen in Sri Lanka, you have seen in Bangladesh, we have seen in many other countries where the younger generation, they came to the street to claim to leadership. And we should to avoid it, we should give opportunity to the younger generations to come up. For that, we should give them we should give them confidence, we should convince them that there is a room for you to play a role in society. In whatever your talent is, use it for the good of the country. We have to give that. And for that, the state government, the national politics will have a major role. The major role will be that the national politics must convince to the younger generation that from a natural process, they can come to the leadership. I don't mean leadership means only politics. I mean leadership in different walks of life of the society.
Of course.
If we can convince to the younger generation that they have got the open door to enter the leadership in all the fields, wherever your talents allow you. And if we encourage them, I think the stability will be ensured. When the stability will be ensured, there will be no room for the external forces to play. When there will be no room for the external forces to play, then nation will have a one voice. A nation will be respected by the international community. When the nation will be respected by the international community, when the international community is convinced that Nepal's present policies is going to continue in the future too. The leadership is mature. They are developing in evolutionary process. They look after not their personal interest but the national interest. I think then Nepal will get trust of the international community. Nepal will be respected by the international community. Nepal's voice will be, international community will start listening to the Nepalese voice, and that will change the scenario of the country.
That being said, I would like to ask you one final question on today's episode. To the youths who are watching this episode right now, to the future leaders of Nepal and the world, do you have any message you would like to give to them?
No, my message to the younger generation is that they should take the leadership of the country. The future belongs to them, and they should always remember a fact that we have inherited Nepal from our forefathers. We are going to hand over. Our duty is to hand over the Nepal intact to the younger generations. The new generations, the younger generation, the Generation Z, will have to build up Nepal more strong, and they should hand over it to the another generations in a more intact shape. That is the way we can protect our history and geography. When we protect our history and geography, we will protect our national identity. When we protect our national identity, that will safeguard our national independence.
Well, thank you so much, sir, for contributing your words on our show. As a token of gratitude, we have a little something for you.
Thank you.
Over here, we have a trophy with the words
thank you.
Ad Meliora on it.
Thank you. It's beautiful.
In Latin, it means towards a brighter future.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Thank
much,
you.
sir.